put your hands together for Nirmala Sitharaman, India's first full-time woman defense minister. She'll make a short speech, post which she's also agreed to take questions. Thank you very much for being here, ma'am.
Good evening. It's actually event I would have looked forward to, participating, being with you all, sharing some thoughts. But it so happened that I wasn't going to be able to make it, and gave a bit of a not so pleasant message, after which I was put some sense into. Maria and Joshi all spoke to me and said, in spite of the fact that you're not going to be in town, you'd make sure you'll come here. And I can see why. Since yesterday, the buzz going around this event and also the kind of inputs that you've had is something which I shouldn't miss. I shouldn't have missed, I shouldn't, and I wouldn't want to miss. But the sense prevailed, and here I am. So thank you, Maria. It's for you that I've made it. And thanks very much for all those who are here. I think the Honorable Prime Minister in his inauguration himself has said quite a lot about what this government is doing and what is it that we're doing in order that India stands out in terms of the growth, in terms of an all-round planning, inclusive economy where you're trying to get all sectors in and so on. But my particular focus is to tell you all as to what the Defense Ministry has done in the last few years, and as a result of which, we see that the strong foundations that this sector needs, both in terms of India's capacity to meet the requirements of its own armed forces, as much as because of the technology, the entrepreneurship that India has, and also because in many other sectors we are able to make solid contribution towards export. This could also be one of the areas in which we can make India manufacturing hub for defense sector. So the emphasis has been to make sure that you are able to have enough produced in this country in order that you can gradually reduce the import of expensive, technologically advanced equipments for the armed forces. If this is one, sorry? Louder? So, can it be louder? I mean, is there any way you can make it louder? Just a minute. Okay, thank you, yeah. It's sort of, okay. So the emphasis has been one, is that all right? So the emphasis has been, one, you want to reduce import of equipment. Two, you want to manufacture as much as you can in this country, not just for yourself, but also to export. Three, focus on preparedness. Armed forces is preparedness. And outstanding issues of welfare, disability, education, and so on. So I think on each one of this, we've made enough progress. Enough is not to say enough for the forces, I can do lots more, but for the time given, in the time that I had in my hand, we've made rapid steps progress. I'm straight coming from Tamil Nadu, where after the budget announcement, 2 defense production corridors were announced, as you are aware. We've announced one in Tamil Nadu and one in Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, the focus is to link all those existing cities where OFBs exist, defense public sector units exist. Similarly, in Tamil Nadu too, there is also a set of OFBs which are present all over the route of the corridor, and we have had interaction with industry, private sector, which can, of all sizes, medium, small, large, which can now work together with the ministry and make sure that their investment decisions in order that their production in the next few years will be towards producing defense goods. So there is this kind of a momentum which is given, both supported by the budget and also supported by the policy of Make in India, Make in India, with a very big accent of Indian designed, Indian made, Indian, manufactured goods. So in a way, the policy translating towards ground-based activities is absolutely picked up, and the speed with which this policy change and also towards manufacturing in India is gaining good momentum. Other than that, of course, there is periodic review of the situation on the borders. Army, Air Force and Navy are also seized of the developments both in the maritime area and also in the not so well-defined border with China. I'm not sure if at the opening remarks stage you want me to say more. I would leave you all to, I think it is planned that there will be Zaka or somebody who's going to sit and talk to me and ask questions which will be more to the issue that is in your mind, that I can address it, rather than give a long-wound lecture on what is happening in the Ministry of Defense. But once again, thank you very much for the CNN for having given me this opportunity to interact with all of you all. I'm sure I'll hear a lot of things on which I can go back to work again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for, first of all, making it here, because she's coming straight from the airport. She was in Chennai all through the day today, and the very fact that she's here in itself, I think, is remarkable. Thank you very much, first of all, for that. You made an impassioned plea for Make in India in defense, about kickstarting Indian industries and them helping the defense supply chain. But has it really kicked off? Has it really been a success? Has it translated? Because government's own data seems to suggest that out of the 144 contracts given out in the last 4 years, the average delay is about 52 months. The accepted delay in defense contracts is about 13 to 16 months. So has there been a mismatch between what has been promised and, as the opposition says, the slogans and what is actually translating on the ground?
Well, I'm not so much worried about the opposition saying,
sure,
but it is a reality that even if we open up, there are times when you're working under a given framework of rules or under a policy which itself needs a bit of tweaking. And that's why, even as I said in my opening statement, Make in India, the Prime Minister announces on the rampart, from the ramparts of the Red Fort, after which we have made some policy changes. But as we go along, when we hear from the stakeholders that more is to be done, we have kept changing. And that is why we are now very confident that the changes with which the new defense procurement policy is going to be announced sooner, a lot more of what has been the takeaways from the interaction from the stakeholders will be incorporated and will make it even more simpler. And even as it is, I think a few things have been announced. Nearly 21 such projects have been taken out to be given to the Indian private sector.
Sure.
And also we have said you don't have to wait for us to announce an acceptance of necessity for something that we want. Instead, if you think you have something to contribute, suo motu, you can come and we will take on that idea. Third, we've also made a very clear sort of commitment that if after the trials are proven that your product is good enough, we shall not retract our commitment.
Okay.
So that is something which will give confidence to the investors that if they've done something as per the quality stipulations, and if the prototype is tested, there's no need for them to worry, but we will buy. So that kind of change which is happening, I would think will give us the necessary results. Until now, if it is not really as much as we expected, it's also because these kind of difficulties had to be overcome.
You know, before you came here, one of our earlier panelists was Captain Amrinder Singh, and he's a former infantryman himself. And he painted a very dire picture of the situation in terms of weapons, in terms of ammo, in terms of guns. We have a lot of Fauji's in the audience today. And he says that the 7.62 guns, which he used as an infantryman back in the 60s and 70s, is being reintroduced. What is the real picture? Are our forces really well equipped to deal with the challenges that they face?
There's no doubt that there is a big challenge in front of us. But it's not as being projected. I'm not contradicting Captain Amrinder Singh, who I've not heard. I don't know what he said here. But the fact is, look at it from two different points of view. There was a huge debate about Chennai.
Yeah.
Do we have enough ammunitions if we were to have 10 days of intensive war? We have addressed that issue, and I'm glad to say that the vice chiefs have been given enough power, and together with it, enough financial limits have been sanctioned to them so that they can take the decision, buy whatever they need with a sense of urgency, which no better than no one else than they can understand. So that has already been given to them, and they are rapidly making their decisions.
No, but ma'am, you've seen the Vice Chief's comments to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence. He says 68% of our weapons are vintage.
I've got to be conscious.
Sure, absolutely.
I've got to be conscious that we are talking about a standing committee report even as the Parliament is in session. So however much I would like to expand on it and say, yes, for everything that is now being said in public about the Vice Chief commenting, there are other things which the Vice Chief has also said which will add much more confidence to us, which also has to have a play in the public discourse. But I wouldn't want to reply, or give an answer to the Standing Committee's report, even as the Parliament is in session, out here. But I'm duty-bound to give it in the Parliament, and I shall do that.
But this general sense, and I believe, again, this is a sense that's shared by a lot of ex-Fauji's here, is that the budget allocation for defense this time has been relatively low, in fact, quite low. The point is, again, every country has its own priorities. You need to pay for health, you need to pay for education. In that relative context, vis-a-vis already the amount of the share that the defense budget goes for just salaries and pensions, what is left for weapons upgrade, for modernization, given the kind of challenges that we face from the western side and from the eastern side?
First of all, the figure which we talk about saying, is that sufficient for modernization? And also equally say the money that you have to spend for pensions is huge. Oh no, the figure that we're talking about for modernization or for defense is exclusive of what is being given for pensions or OROP related. So distinctly two different amounts have been very clearly mentioned in the budget, and therefore the debate should not talk about the budget with the commitments given for OROP. OROP related matters are already kept separate.
Sure.
But even then, is this sufficient for modernization? Is this sufficient for so many other things which have been pending? I think as soon as the budget was announced, I said, I'm happy with what we've got. And why did I have to say that? And I say that even today. Why did I have to say that? Both my senior predecessors, Parikar and Arun Jaitley, and myself, after my coming in September, have repeatedly reviewed the situation, looked at all the pending projects on which decisions had not been taken over a decade, prioritized, made the forces prioritize on what they want with a sense of urgency, what can wait, what cannot. And based on that, our consultations with Ministry of Finance happened.
Okay.
So it's not as if, devoid of the list of priorities that the three forces have given, we've rushed to something with the Finance Ministry, or we didn't commit ourselves to the Finance Ministry, and what they gave us crumbs we've taken. I'm sorry, that's a wrong picture. The consultations happened after the three forces and the Coast Guard made their list of priorities. Well, for a decade if decisions are not made, and if there is a list of 100 for each of them, from among them there should be some priority for me to demand funds for 1 year based on the 10-year waiting list.
Sure.
How much more can I do? Not that I want a credit saying I've done, but the ministry has continuously, with the forces telling us and reshuffling the priorities, assessed our demand. And therefore, to suddenly say, for the level of modernization that the armed forces have to undergo, this is insufficient. The level of modernization that the armed forces has to undergo, I understand. We have to give a lot more. No doubt on that. But it's not as if we've not done our homework before going to the finance, or not taking into cognizance our demand, our homework. The finance ministry has thrown some amount at us. No, it's done in consultation.
Okay. I have to ask you the question on the Rafale deal. Now, obviously, it's become political. It's become political mudslinging. The Congress party saying that the figure that's initially there was reluctance to release the figure per aircraft. Now the figure has been said in a written reply in Parliament, 670 crores, but that is minus avionics, weapon systems, India-specific requirements, and so on. The Congress party says that their deal was about 500 odd crores per aircraft. How do you respond to that, first of all, politically?
I think we've given a very elaborate statement on Rafale. The factors that we have to keep in the back of our mind whenever we speak about Rafale, even at the cost of repeating, I'd like to say it here. The constant reference to our price versus your price. You can go into 10 shops wanting to buy something, and you didn't end up buying it at all. How does it matter what price was quoted to you when you didn't buy? We bought it. And for a non-deal where you probably kept bargaining with whoever, or probably kept telling your own HAL to do this or that, which they couldn't do, or they did, none of which is firmed up in paper with a signature saying this is my agreement, somebody faulted on the agreement or something of that kind, I agree. But when you've not done anything, you kept toing and froing and toing and froing. End of the day, you realize that the squadron strength is coming down. But even then, sense of urgency didn't prevail. But now that the sense of urgency prevailed and the Prime Minister went to get a first expression of intent. Do we want to buy Rafale? Will you give me Rafale? CCS has not approved that. Excuse me. How many Prime Ministers, when they go to different countries to talk about, just to find will they be able to deal with us on this, need a CCSS approval? I don't know if they've not understood the difference between a stage when the expression of interest is being said, that's April 2015, and a stage after detailed negotiations.
Sure.
Agreement gets signed in November of 2016, 1.5 years later. It is for that you should talk about CCS approval. So there is a lot of convenience-based argument which is being thrown out at people, allegations being thrown at us, where actual process and an understanding of the process, recognition of the process, and the milestones that you have to achieve in going through this process are all happily being ignored. And you keep repeating this, and we'll have to keep, because Media has a job to ask us, and we have a job to reply. We'll have to keep replying. And imagery is being created, saying, oh, there is a scandal here. The scam is coming up. They are not answering. There is a scam I want to look at. There is no scam existing here. You may search as long as you want.
But would you be open for a probe? Would you be open for
Probe? What do you mean, Zaka?
I believe there's a PIL already in the Supreme Court.
No, wait a minute. You can believe many things, and really, if people want to go, I can't stop anybody.
Okay.
But I want to tell you this. Just by throwing flak at us, the maturity with which issues of national interest have to be addressed are not being addressed. You can accuse us of having obstructed the parliament several times before. They are also doing that, and so on. But I also want to cite here that on issues of national interest, when we have asked questions, being in the opposition, the replies given by the then defense minister, be it Honorable former President of India, Pranab Mukherjee ji, or Antony ji, they have sought cover under national interest. And the Bharatiya Janata Party didn't make a big scene out of it. Okay. We agreed, all right, if there is a problem of national interest, we'll let go. We trust that the government will not do anything harming the national interest.
Sure.
That level of statesmanship, maturity, I'm sorry, I'm unable to see now.
Okay. All right. Let me ask two questions. When you speak about national interest, two questions, one on our western neighbor, one on our eastern neighbor. I'll start with the western neighbor. As per MOD's own stats, the Army's own stats, there were more than 900 ceasefire violations last year. In the first couple of months of this year, there have already been close to 200. More soldiers have died last year than in any year in the previous decade. More terrorists have also been killed last year than in any year in the last decade. Would you see this as a failure, as a success, or a work in progress?
Well, I would only put it as work in progress. I don't want for a minute to give you the impression, nor do I believe in it, that, oh, we are successfully handling it, and I want to gloat, using your word. No, there's nothing to gloat here. It's the responsibility of the armed forces, and they are doing it very well at great cost of their own men and, assets. That infiltration is being stopped at the border itself. We are not allowing the infiltrators to come in. Well, of course, there is some who still come in.
Sure.
And we do eliminate them. Yes, the incidents at the border has gone up. But very clearly, we are also holding on and very clearly pushing them back. And the sacrifices being made by the Indian soldier is not such that I would, yes, sacrifices will have to happen. No, I feel for every one of our soldier who's losing his life there. It is such a, it's such a heartbreaking, development every time you hear something like that. And it is so unthinkingly, both the state actor and the non-state actors of Pakistan now in collision to do this. The earlier pretension that there is a distinction between non-state actor and the state actor no longer exists, I would say. And as a result, each time when our soldiers are sacrificed there, it's terrible for this country. And equally, I won't be able to even claim the number of their men or their non-state actors who we eliminate till such a time the legalities are completed. The bodies have to be claimed, the FIRs have to be registered, the body has to be handed over to somebody who claims that it is our man, and not easily does Pakistan accept even their soldiers if they're killed.
Yeah, they did in Kargil.
For every time an incident happens, in India, we have a problem that we don't even have a completed process, end of which I'm able to say, this many of Pakistani I have eliminated. Because we do respect law, we have to go through the process again, and after the completion of the process, I'm able to claim. But there is a time lag.
Sure.
So the impression going out, I wish, is not, we are doing nothing, we are sacrificing our soldiers. Please, no. And those veterans who are here will be able to appreciate the point that it takes its time to assert and to state it, because we are a country who follow the rule of law.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about our eastern neighbor. And you're all very well aware of what happened last year, the 72-day long standoff in Doklam. Now, post that, India stood her ground and everybody appreciated that. But post that, there are some concerns that there's massive build-up on the Chinese side, including building of massive infrastructure. Should we be worried? Will there be a Doklam 2?
I don't think. And of course, the Ministry of External Affairs has been giving elaborate answers on what has been developing or what is the status now in Doklam. I would not want to add more words to what they have said already. I'd certainly say there is no Doklam 2 that I can think of. But at various levels, the engagement is going on. Mm-hmm. You have established processes. There is a permanent representative who's had about 20 different set of meetings. Then you have the border personnel meeting, the flag officers meeting. All this, and I think recently the Army Chief has also come out to say, we have resumed these talks. So we are continuously engaging at various levels. So I don't think we should, I'm not saying we can't be complacent, nor am I saying we can be shoulders down, we can relax. No, we have to be alert, we have to be conscious of every minute of what happens and what not happens in our border.
Okay, and final question, as Shreya introduced you, you're the first ever woman Raksha Mantri. You broke a glass ceiling by assuming that post. Many are now asking the question, we now have women fighter pilots. When are we going to see women in combat roles in the army? I mean, I know this is a long shot. I don't know if it'll happen in your lifetime or mine, but a woman service chief.
This is a matter in which I think I've said quite a few times that we are not averse to having women in all activities of the forces. But now the matter is at various levels in different courts all over the country. Whether it relates to those women who are in the Short Service Commission who would want to move over to Permanent Commission, or other women who have already reached that grey area of having completed the short service and wanting to move, but we have not removed them, we have kept them, are they there or not? Several cases are in the courts. Now, even if I want to take one decision today, I have to understand the implication of that decision on the various cases which are lying in the court. So this is a bit complicated, only to that extent, complicated for nothing else, but the fact that it is still in the court, at different courts. So we are taking step by step some kind of a position with which, end of the day, we open it all up for women too. We are not averse to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Raksha Mantri, Nirmala Sitharaman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nirmala ji, for being here. Thank you very much.